Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Farmer Joe Homesteading. I'm sure, as you can already tell from my get up today, we have extreme weather again. This is this week's farm update and what we have going on here on the homestead with all of our animals. So obviously, after last week's video on hardships, it has not gotten any better. It has still been a really rough time. Some extreme weather blew in on Tuesday night, which we were expecting and is expected to stay for the rest of the week, which isn't terrible, but it isn't great either. So we're currently toughing that out and enduring the extremes that we have been getting this week. To the goat water. That's almost to my armpits. We ended up accumulating between 12 to 18 inches of snow on Tuesday. Just Tuesday, we accumulated 12 to 18 inches of snow. It was insane. It was coming down in big, huge, like chunks of snow. It was wild. So on top of that came the extreme winds. We have been getting some really, really brutal winds directly from the North Pole, like literally directly from the north. So that has been really hard on everything. And because it had snowed and continued snowing when that high winds came through, it was blowing that fine dusty snow everywhere. We had snow in every nook and cranny of the farm. The snow drifts were up to my armpits in places. So the goats cannot get to their water. They probably won't be accessing their water for a while. So I'll be packing buckets to their shelter. The goats actually have it the worst because their shelter is pointed north. And so luckily, because they have their little cubby hole, I can lock them in there and close the door to the shelter. So they are able to stay warm in there, and they are my least concern, even though they have the worst of the wind and whatnot, because they have bigger bodies. And so if I keep them really well fed with lots of hay, they'll stay nice and toasty. So they are getting hay in there and also where I can put it, because I can't even access their manger right now. So that's how the goat situation is going. So it looks like they'll be getting fed and watered in here. I brought them some water. I'm gonna have to bring the hay in here. The snow was up to my butt walking that path. So I forked the hay over to here, thinking the girls would not go to it, but they were hungry enough. They plowed through the snow. So I put half the hay there and then half of it in here. If you missed our turkey winter care, make sure you check out that video because turkeys do great in winter if you have the right breed. And obviously our Ridley Bronze could care less about this weather. We actually got 5 turkey eggs in one day this last week. So that was super exciting. We've been averaging like 3 or 4, but one day we did get 5. So I know 5 of our turkey hens are laying now. The only 2 that are not laying is our older girls, Sasha and Sage, from last year. And I think they're just, the girls that are laying now is because they're coming of age because they've hit the 9-month mark. But the other 2 are holding off, which I don't blame them. This is wild. The geese I am a bit concerned about because they prefer to be outside and I can't keep them cooped up because they cause a ruckus and they get mean to the chickens. But they've been staying low and kind of bedding down along the coop there. And so they've been okay, but I am very worried about our fertility. I was already worried about the fertility leading up to this. In our last check, we had, out of the 13 eggs I'd put in, 10 were fertilized, so that's amazing. But unfortunately, out of those 10, I only had 5 make it. I ended up discovering that the incubator temperature was wrong. I had set the temperature to one of the thermometers that was in there, but obviously that thermometer was off big time. So I put one of my Govies in there because I know that they're very accurate, and sure enough, the goose incubator was at 102.4. So I was cooking all of our goose eggs. So another bit of a kick in the gut again. So now that I have that stabilized, those goose eggs are doing really well. And I added an additional 12 eggs to the goose incubator. So hopefully now that the temperature is correct, it should be better, but that still doesn't fix the fertility issue. There definitely still is issues with fertility in the goose flock. So I'm hopeful that with I was hopeful that with the tub of water I was giving them last week, it would solve that problem. But geese should not submerge in water after -15, and it is lower than that. So I can't let them have baths, which means that they're not breeding in water. And I actually haven't heard him breeding the girls at all in the last 3 days. They have been really pushing him off. So I wouldn't be surprised if the geese stopped laying for a little while and then restarted in the springtime. So we're gonna take every goose egg we can and throw it in the incubator and see how things go for the next little while. And yeah, it's going to be a bit of an adventure with the geese this year. I can already. The chickens are still going strong. We're still adding cayenne to their water. They're also getting their Flock Boost probiotic and some electrolytes for this cold snap. The only coop I'm worried about is this coop. And I had took some footage yesterday, and so I can show you guys that. I had to move this roost bar over to this end because of that. I thought I patched all the holes because there's all the wire and boards and bags, but the snow is blowing through, and I didn't even realize it was that bad. But we still seem to be getting a lot of chicken eggs. The biggest issue now has just been collecting the eggs so that they are still warm for hatching, which means that I have to be outside like 5 or 6 times in this extreme weather to gather up all of my eggs so that they are still viable for making them into fluffy little chicks for springtime, which will happen. Springtime will happen. This Saturday is also hatch day for the first set of eggs that I put in the big cabinet incubator. Now, I did have an issue with that as well with temperature because I put the Govee up on the top shelf where the eggs are not and had it at the perfect temperature up there. But then when I moved the thermometer around in the incubator down where the eggs are, it was not warm enough. So it was still warm enough for eggs to develop, but not warm enough for them to really thrive. So I'm not very hopeful that this first hatch is going to be very good because of that. So I did adjust the temperature, and now it's reading 99 to 99.5 throughout the whole incubator, which is great. So I'm hopeful that that'll do well. I am hoping to do an experiment here soon and actually increase the temperature inside to like 100 to 101, because apparently if you have a higher temperature in your incubator, you have a higher chance of pullets. And I've had a lot of breeders say that that actually really works. So I'm tempted, but right now I've got turkey eggs in there as well. And turkey eggs do not survive over 100 degrees. So I can't do that quite yet. Our little Miss Amber has still not kindled. I ended up moving her and swapping her cage with Shadow so that she had that nice big space and a nice big area to make a beautiful nest, and she hasn't even started pulling hair. Her abdomen still is hard and she still looks round, so I'd be really surprised if she doesn't end up kindling. My dates could be off because I was exposing the girls multiple times a week to the buck, so even if I wrote down the fall off date that would give her a due date of yesterday, she still could kindle a day or two late because I did put her back in with Peter later on in the week as well, just to try and increase our chances and make sure that she was good and fertile when we put her in there. So hopefully that worked. Now, Miss Livy is still looking really plump, and she hasn't actually been eating very much. So I think that she is actually getting really, really close. So she has definitely been showing more signs of being close, and she is due on Friday, the day this video comes out. So hopefully I'll be able to show you guys next week how that all turns out. Now, these are both first-time does, so it is very possible that this doesn't work out well, especially since the weather we're having is less than ideal for any birth of any kind. So it's very possible that these babies could freeze if they don't have a good nest because they're first-time moms, or they could panic and eat them, which is also common in first-time moms. So I'm just really hoping with this that I know that they are fertile and that Peter is fertile, and if everything goes the absolute worst, at least we know that we have hope in trying again, and March would be much different weather than it is right now. And so we are still hopeful that even if this week things don't go to plan with the rabbits, it at least gives me some hope that things will improve in the future. All right, guys, just did my fourth egg check of the day and realized I didn't do a video for the end of this video. So here it is. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow along our homestead, and we will see you guys next time, hopefully in warmer weather. A wonderful neighbor came and plowed for us. Now we have pathways. Things will get better.